Okay.
Okay, today we're going to go with lesson number 3. The title of the lesson is Discuss Personality and its Origin. This is a lecture that is going to talk about the differences between personalities in people and how some people think that personality is something that you are born with. You know, it's genetic. Your personality is something that comes in your genes, in your genetics. And some people think that personality is something that you learn or that you develop, depending on where you grew up, um, how did they treat you when you were a kid, if you were in sports, if you had friends or not, etc. How were your parents with you? All these things that okay,
Visto.
perdón. Sí lo
Un
pago.
chapulín.
No sé qué le pasa. Me pasa siempre en clases, en reuniones importantes. En el día cuando no estoy haciendo nada, jala perfecto. Veo la tele con ganas, pero bueno. Cuando
Un
estoy en clase
chapulín.
de trabajo. I'm sorry. Ok, no sé si me alcancé a expresar todo como la idea del texto, o si me corté
Sí,
antes, pero bueno,
sí, te quedaste como que si era algo que unos pensaban que venía en la genética y otros pensaban que se desarrollaba.
excelente, buen entendimiento, eso fue exactamente lo que dije. Bien, ahora pues vamos si quieres a pasarnos ya a la lectura propiamente, vamos a darle una corrida completa, vamos a escuchar vocabulario que a lo mejor no hemos visto antes, ahorita vamos a tratar de irlo asociando, pero ponemos mucha atención para agarrar idea principal y
Okay.
luego le damos otra segunda lectura ahora sí contigo. ¿Sí? ¿Va de arriba?
Read and listen.
Personality, from nature or nurture. What is personality? Many people define personality as a person's usual manner or style of behavior. These patterns of behavior tend to be predictable throughout a person's lifetime. Some people are introverts, others are extroverts. Some people have easygoing personalities. They are usually cheerful and calm, and able to cope with life's difficulties without much trouble. Their emotions are usually under control. They don't get extremely angry about little things. Others, at the other end of the personality spectrum, are more emotional, experiencing higher highs and lower lows. Most people's personalities, however, don't fall at the extreme ends, but rather fall somewhere in between. Where do we get our personality? For hundreds of years, psychologists and ordinary people have never stopped debating this fascinating question. Some people think personality develops as a result of the environment, the combination of influences that we learn from, such as our families, our culture, our friends, and our education. The people who believe this theory believe that all babies are born without a personality, and that it's the environment that determines or forms each child's personality. This school of thought is called the nurture school. At the other end of the continuum, we find people who believe that personality is determined by nature, or the characteristics we receive or inherit from our parents biologically through their genes. These people believe that our personality is not determined by the environment, but rather by genetics, and that each baby is born with a personality. The nature-nurture controversy. The nature-nurture controversy is very old. Experimental psychologists have tried to discover which of these two factors, genetics or the environment, is more important in forming our personality. However, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to conduct research on real people with real lives. There's just no way to put people in a laboratory and watch them develop. For this reason, there's no scientific way to settle the nature-nurture controversy. Recently, however, most researchers have come to believe that both the environment and the genes, nurture and nature, work together and are both important. Even though the experts have largely discarded the idea that personality development is so black and white, the nature-nurture controversy remains a popular discussion among friends. It seems that everyone has an opinion.
Everyone has an opinion as for everything else. Okay. So far, do you have questions on any of the words you saw? You don't know what they mean?
Yes. Behavior.
Behavior. Okay. Behavior is a word that we use to describe how a person acts. Okay, for example, if you are in the supermarket and there is a little kid, he's 3 years old and he wants cookies. And he says to his mother, "Mom, can we get cookies?" And the mom says, "No, honey, not today." And then he throws himself in the floor. He starts screaming and yelling and crying and throwing things away and making a mess. That kid has a bad behavior. Okay. But
Okay.
there's also another kid who told the same to his mom, and his mother said, "Not today, honey. Tomorrow we'll get your cookies." And he says, "Okay, mom." And then that's it. He has a good behavior. Okay. So behavior is how we act on different situations of life. Okay.
Okay.
So here we say,
Comportamiento.
sorry?
It's like comportamiento.
Exactly. That's the translation. Okay. In this text, it says, many people define personality as a person's usual manner or style of behavior, how you behave. Okay. What is the style of your behavior? These patterns of behavior, okay, patterns, a sequence, these patterns of behavior tend to be predictable. Tend is like when there's a tendency, okay?
Okay. Yes.
So tend to be predictable throughout a person's lifetime. Now, what is the meaning of this throughout? It means during, okay, during a person's lifetime, for all the time of a person's lifetime. For example, I didn't eat today and I was very hungry throughout all my work schedule, okay, throughout, for all that time, okay. Okay, then, well, I don't know if you had any other questions on vocabulary that you want to mention.
Mm, 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 mm. Mm, mm.
I can move this a little bit. Again?
Inherit.
Inherited.
Mhm.
Okay. For example, I don't have a lot of hair, okay?
Okay.
To get old. I'm sorry to use this example, but it's a good one. I could just say brown skin, but I went with the hair. Okay. I don't have a lot of hair. My father had a lot of hair, but my grandfather doesn't have a lot of hair. So I inherited
Okay.
baldness from my grandfather. Okay. It's something that you pass from generations.
Okay.
Huh?
Mhm.
Good. Any other words that you may see? I mean, we're going to go. Mhm.
No.
Okay. Everything good.
Yes.
Okay, great. There was another one. Okay, this one. Nature,
Mhm.
nurture. What is the difference between these two?
Ah, no la vi, que era diferente.
Okay. Nurture is, aquí sí es mejor traducirla, nutrición, pero ojo, no del cuerpo, no de los nutrientes, sino de qué te nutre, de qué te alimentas. O sea, no necesariamente con comida, sino quizá un poco metafóricamente, no metafórica, más bien un poco más abstracto el concepto de nutrición. Sí, por ejemplo, de hecho el título es Personality, from nature or nurture. O sea, ¿es natural, es heredado o es adquirido por lo que te nutrió durante tu infancia, tus sesgos, exposiciones, etcétera, ¿no? A eso se refiere. ¿Ok? Ese es el significado de la palabra nurture. ¿Ok? Okay, let's go ahead and start reading, please. Diana, Can you go up from the top? What is personality?
What is personality? Many people define personality as a person's usual manner or style of behavior.
Mhm.
Behavior.
There you go.
Mhm. These patterns of behavior tend to be predictable throughout
Throughout.
throughout
Mhm.
throughout
Mm.
a person's lifetime.
Again, a
Some
person's lifetime.
a person's lifetime.
Mhm.
Some people are introverts, others are extroverts.
Mhm.
Some people have easygoing personalities. They are usually cheerful
Mhm.
and calm and able to cope with life's difficulties without much trouble.
Okay, what is the meaning of able to cope?
Mm, ¿Cómo sobrellevar?
Mhm. Very good.
Ujú,
Ese tipo de interpretaciones, como la que acabas de hacer, son interpretaciones desde el contexto, ¿verdad?
ujú,
Obviamente, a lo mejor no sabemos qué significa la palabra cope, o te topas con, o a lo mejor sí, o te topas con una palabra que no tenga mucho sentido que esté ahí, pero por el contexto entendemos.
ujú.
Entonces, en el inglés, ay, perdón, estoy comiendo gomitas de los panditas. En el inglés, te vas a topar, es como cuando en el español te dicen algo así, ¿no? Como de que, hombre, ya se armaron los tacos, y lo lees así como que alguien te manda un mensaje, ¿no? Ya se armaron los tacos.
Sí,
Y tú dices, ¿cómo que se armaron? O sea, si fueras un extranjero dirías, ¿a sí mismos? ¿O quién los armó? ¿O de qué se armaron? ¿O cómo se...? Ajá, entonces, son más bien frases que vamos a entender e interpretar por el contexto. Y eso ya es un ejercicio muy padre, tanto hablado como leído, del inglés, de otro idioma, prácticamente del inglés, porque pues ya digamos que nos permite tomar varias ideas, conectarlas y darle fluidez a lo que está diciendo el texto. ¿Sí me explico? Entonces, muy
sí.
bien. Así como lo interpretaste,
Eh,
está excelente.
pero, ¿qué significa CUP?
Ok,
CUP.
cope. Cope es como, es que no quiero usar una definición errónea. Digamos que es como congeniar, ¿sí?
Ah,
O
ok.
vivir, pero no convivir de dos personas, sino, mm, es que, a ver, déjame te digo. Pues no convivir, es como sobrellevar, o tal vez la palabra sería como lidiar.
Ah, ok,
Lidiar
ya.
suena un poco más como...
La verdad, nunca la había visto, pero sí, como dices, por el contexto.
Exactamente. Y ese es ejercicio. Luego ya, por ejemplo, a mí me pasa, digo, yo soy maestro de inglés y todo lo que tú quieras, pero a la fecha no conozco todas las palabras y me sigo topando con cosas nuevas. Pero está padrísimo porque, por ejemplo, en la lectura, por eso me gusta mucho animar a mis alumnos a leer en inglés, no necesariamente las de aquí del libro, vea, otras lecturas, porque ahí te topas con muchas palabras que se te van quedando ahí como en el bagaje de palabritas en inglés. Entonces, está padre. Luego
Sí,
ya te la topas más adelante otra vez y dices, ah, ¿esto qué era? Ah, ok. O ni siquiera te acuerdas de la traducción, sino que ya sabes cómo usarla
entiendo.
en el mismo contexto en inglés.
Ándale, sí, cierto.
Pero bueno, ya no te interrumpo. Si quieres, without
Ok,
much trouble. Ujú.
sí. Their emotions are usually under control.
Oh, ok.
They
Oh,
don't
I'm sorry. Under control.
under control.
Ujú.
They don't get extremely angry about little things. Others at the other end of the personality spectrum are more emotional, experiencing higher heights and lower lows.
Ok, experiencing.
Experiencing
¿Mm?
higher
Higher
heights
heights.
and lower lows.
Yes.
Most people's personalities, however, don't fall at the extreme ends, but rather fall somewhere in between.
In between. Okay, what is rather?
Mm, a ver, pues es como preferir, ¿no?
It's like instead of this is that. Okay.
Ajá. Sí.
Most people I'm sorry. Let me mute this thing real quick because it's gonna keep on ringing and ringing, and I don't want it to ring. Okay. Most people, I'm sorry. Most people's personalities, however, don't fall at the extreme ends, but rather
Yes,
fall
that's
somewhere in
right.
between. Okay. It's like
Okay.
it's not this, it's that. Okay.
Yes.
Hmm.
Then, where do we get our personality? For hundreds of years, psychologists and ordinary people have never stopped debating this fascinating question. Some people think personality develops as a result of environment,
As a result.
as a result of the environment.
Hmm.
The combination of influences that
Hmm.
we learn from, such as our families, our culture, our friends, and our education.
Hmm.
The people who believe this theory believe that all babies are born without a personality and that it's the environment that determines
Okay.
or
And
forms.
that it's the, I'm sorry, it's the environment that determines.
Okay. That it's the environment that determines
Hmm.
or forms each child's personality.
Yes.
This school of thought is called the nat, ay, ¿cómo era?
Nurture.
Nurture School.
Okay, again, this school of thought, okay,
This school of thought.
is called the nurture school.
This school of thought is called the Nurture School.
Okay, yes. What is school of thought?
Mm, this school of thought is called.
Okay, it's like, for example, um, a lot of people believe that if you, mm, that if a pregnant woman goes out with a full moon, okay,
Okay.
the baby can be, can have problems, okay, or can have a deformation or something, I don't know. That is a school of thought. Why? Because somebody taught them that. Okay, taught is
Okay.
the past of teach. Okay, so somebody taught them that, and their grandmothers told them, don't go out when the moon is full, okay, because
Okay.
your baby is gonna get sick. So it's just a popular belief, you know.
Okay.
It's something that is school of thought. It's not like a science, but it's something you think. So that's why it says this school of thought. Which one? The people who believe this theory believe that all babies are born without personality and that it's an environment, the environment that determines or forms each child's personality. That school of thought is called the nurture school. Okay.
It's like creencias. Creencias.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then at the other end of the continuum, we find people who believe that personality is determined by nature. Nature.
Okay. Again, is determined
I, is
uh-huh,
determined
by
by,
nature.
by nature.
Nature. What is nature? The trees, the etc. Okay, the sea, the air. That's nature,
Yes.
but also our human nature. Everything that surrounds us.
Okay.
Hmm.
Or the characteristics we receive
Hmm.
or inherit inherit from our parents biologically
Biologically.
by biolog I biolog
Biologically. Hmm.
mhm, through their genes. These people believe that our personality is not determined by the environment, but rather by genetics.
Or rather.
But rather by genetics,
Hmm.
and that each baby is born with a personality.
Okay. How is this school of thought called?
It's called Nurture School.
Nature school. Nature school. So we have the nature school and the nurture school. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Correct. Now, can we go with the nature-nurture controversy?
Yes. Uh, the not the nature nurture controversy is very old.
Mhm.
Exper- Experimental psychologists have tried.
Psychologists.
¿Cómo?
I'm sorry, psychologists.
Psychologists have
Mhm.
tried to discover which of these two factors, genetics or environment, is more important in forming our personality. However, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to conduct research on real people with real lives. There's just no way to put people in a laboratory and watch them develop. For this reason, there's no scientific way to settle the nature nurture controversy.
Controversy.
Controversy. Recently, however, most researchers have come to believe that both the environment uh, and the genes, nurture and nature, work
Again,
together. eh,
nature and nurture.
Nurture and nature
Mm-hmm.
work together and are both important.
Yes.
Even though the experts
Even
have,
though,
even though the experts have largely discarded the idea that personality development is so black and white, the, the nature nurture controversy remains a popular discussion among friends. It seems that everyone has an opinion.
yes, it seems that everyone has a bit. So there's people who believe that personality comes from genetics. There's people who believe that personality is developed by your surroundings, by the environment, by everything else. Okay.
Yes.
And the scientists think, you know what, it's not like A or B, it's like a combination. Both are important. It's important what you have in your genes, but also it's important how you're gonna uh, develop yourself. Okay. So at
Mhm.
the end, it says, even though the experts have largely discussed the idea that personality development is so black and white, the nature-nurture controversy remains continua, okay? Remains a popular discussion among friends. It seems that everyone has an opinion. Everyone thinks differently, okay?
Okay.
Okay, now
Yes.
let's go ahead and answer this little exercise real quick. Match the words and phrases into the columns, okay? First
Uh-huh.
one, teens. I'm going to give you a few seconds to check the answers and tell me which one would be the correct one.
Okay. The source of traits we inherit from our parents.
This is correct. The source of traits we inherit from our parents. Now, the question is, what is this word? Traits.
Mm, I don't know.
Okay. So I have big eyes, okay? A big nose
Yeah.
and big forehead. My skin is brown and my hair is black. My age is, I am tall. I am, okay, these characteristics of my person,
Rasgos.
myself are my traits, exactly, mis rasgos. Mhm,
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
Number two,
Um,
environment. Which is the best definition for environment?
the world around us.
The world around us, correct. Emotions.
What we feel, such as anger, love, and happiness.
Okay, what we feel, such as anger, love, and happiness.
Anger.
Mhm,
What is
yes,
anger?
anger. I am so angry. I feel a lot of anger.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
The nature school of thought, what is it?
Nature, the belief that learning determines personality.
Okay,
Ay,
that
no,
would
no,
be
al revés.
exactly.
El de
It's
abajo.
the other one. Don't worry. This is the correct
Ujú.
one. And the nurture school is believe that learning determines personality. And the other one is
Ujú.
determined by genetics. The last one, of course, would be personality is
A
a person's.
person, a person usual pattern of behavior.
Muy bien. Oh,
Behavior.
exacto. Solo me decía un maestro de inglés, no te comas las S. Le digo, ay, profesor, suena muy feo eso. Pero no, las S. No, no nos comamos las letras S porque si no, a lo mejor yo lo entiendo, pero cuando hables con alguien, sí van a decir como, ok, sí hace diferencia decirla, pues. Entonces, a person's
Okay.
usual pattern of behavior. Vamos a repetir.
A person's usual pattern of
Hmm,
behavior.
very good. A person's usual pattern of behavior. Okay, good. Do you have any questions so far?
No,
Good. That's great. You're doing very well, Diana. Okay,
thank you.
it seems we're gonna finish today this next unit. Okay, now the next exercise, it's a listening exercise. It's a very long exercise. Okay,
Okay.
so it's probably gonna take like an I don't know 8 or 10 minutes of audio of listening because we're gonna listen to an interview. Okay,
Okay.
this is a conversation between two women, and they're talking about their children and how different they are, how different or how important it is the impact of birth order. Okay, who was born first? Diana, are you the oldest or the youngest or the middle one in your family?
The oldest, I only have one brother. A
You only
brother.
have a brother, right? What is his
Yeah.
name?
Roberto.
Roberto. He's a baseball player, isn't he?
Yes, he's.
He's really good. Yeah, I have seen him on Facebook. Well, yeah. So if you had a third brother, okay, just imagine this. This is the same scenario we have here. This examines, or it's going to make an examination of the differences between the birth order in a family, okay?
Okay.
So we're gonna listen to it. I want you to pay a lot of attention, okay? We're gonna listen to this 2 times, okay? And for the part 1, we're going to talk about the oldest brother. Part 2, the middle brother, and part 3, the youngest brother or the youngest sibling, okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and start. Pay a lot of attention.
Listening comprehension. Exercise A. Listen for main ideas. Read the statements. Then listen to all 3 parts of the discussion. Choose the statement that best expresses the main idea of the discussion. Exercise B. Listen for specific information. Read the exercise. Then listen to each part of the discussion again separately. Complete the exercise as you listen. Part 1.
Would you like some more dessert? No, thanks, Linda. Everything was delicious, but I couldn't eat another bite. Thanks so much. So, Jean, how are your kids doing? Well, that depends which one. Well, how about the oldest? That's Brian, right? How old is he now? He's 15. Brian's fine. Brian's always fine. He's doing great at school. I'm sure he'll get into a great university in a couple of years. He's a great kid, works hard, he plays by the rules, and he's successful at almost everything he does. The only thing that sometimes worries me about Brian is that he can be a little too self-critical. Self-critical? How so? Well, Brian can be pretty hard on himself. No matter how well he does at something, he's not satisfied. He always feels he could do better. That's so interesting. Our first, Eric, is like that too. Really? You know, I once read this article in one of those popular psychology magazines. It said that first children are often self-critical because parents push them to succeed more than they do with their other children. I don't mean to suggest you did that, and I don't think we did that with Eric, but it's interesting because it's so common. I just wonder why.
Well, I do think there's some truth to that in our case. Harvey and I were involved in everything Brian did. Music lessons, karate lessons, Chinese class on Saturday. We drove him to all his classes. We picked him up after they were over. We always asked him a lot of questions about how he was doing. He probably thought our message to him was that he had to be good at everything. But we were just interested. We didn't actually push him to be good at everything, but he may have thought we expected a lot of him. Kids internalize those messages.
I imagine that's pretty typical. It's no one's fault.
And one more thing, if you buy into that, nurture theory.
Yeah?
Brian's sister Annie wasn't born till Brian was 8. He really had more contact with us and other adults than he did with someone closer to his age. I'm sure all that contact with us probably had a huge impact. And, interestingly, Brian has always been comfortable with adults.
From what you're saying, it sounds like Brian is the classic first child. They say that first children often feel more comfortable with people older than themselves. They seem to have a short childhood and grow up fast.
Part 2.
So what about Annie?
Annie's a whole nother story.
How so?
Well, you know what they say about middle children. It's hard for them to feel special. They have no special status. They're not the first and not the baby. They're just in between. Most middle children at least have a little time to be the baby and feel special. But in Annie's case, she never did. Her sister Lucy was born when Annie was really still a baby.
I didn't realize that. How old was Annie when her sister was born?
13 months, just over a year. Annie wasn't even walking or talking yet.
How did Lucy's arrival affect her?
Well, Annie's not an unhappy kid, but she struggles with the things people say middle children usually have a hard time with. Maybe a little more than the typical middle child.
What kinds of things?
Well, Annie's sort of jealous of both her siblings. She's jealous of Brian because we're always saying how great he is. And she's jealous of Lucy because she thinks Lucy gets more attention. Remember, Annie never had a chance to be the baby. We think that's why she's a little bit of a rebel.
Annie's a rebel? She's only 7. How can she be such a rebel?
Well, nothing terrible, but we know that if we're going out, there's going to be an argument with Annie about clothes. I ask her to wear shoes, and she wants to wear sandals. We get dressed up to go to a nice restaurant, and she wants to wear jeans. Sometimes we just give in and let her wear what she wants. We hate to keep fighting with her all the time. This would never happen with Brian.
It sounds like she may be trying to get the attention she thinks the other two are getting.
You may be right, but on the other hand, we don't really worry about her. She's very popular. No one has more friends than Annie. People just love her. She's always been very popular.
That's what they say about middle children. They're usually very popular.
Part 3.
And what about the baby? I guess if Annie's 7, Lucy must be 6?
Right.
Well, you said that Brian and Annie are typical first and middle children. What about Lucy? Is she a typical youngest child?
I guess she is. She's pretty independent. Maybe that's because we didn't have as much time for her as the others. Annie was only 13 months old when Lucy was born, so we were still pretty busy taking care of Annie. We kind of just let Lucy develop on her own, but that definitely had an effect on her personality. Like any kid, she wanted our attention.
What did she do to get it?
Well, she learned how to make us laugh. There's nothing Lucy likes more than clowning around and making people laugh. She's the family clown. Everyone loves her.
Lucy is a lovable kid, very charming. I smile every time I think of her.
Sometimes I worry, though, that she's a little bit of a show-off, but they say that many youngest children like to show off. How better to get attention, right?
Right.
But I have to tell you, that doesn't stop her from being a bit of a pain, too. Last week, she decided to paint the dining room walls. Thank goodness she only had washable paint.
Oh, sorry. I shouldn't laugh. Well, they do say the baby is usually the most creative.
Well, that's our Lucy. But seriously, though, she is creative. Piano, children's theater, ballet lessons, all that stuff. She just can't get enough. We just wish she'd grow up a little. It seems like she'll always be the baby. She drives her older brother and sister crazy with all the attention she gets.
Well, they say the youngest child has the longest childhood. It looks like all three of your kids are a textbook case on birth order.
You can say that again. Well, I've got to be going. This was really fun. And next time you'll have to have lunch at my place.
I'll take you up on that. I'll give you a call sometime next week, okay?
Ay, me siento como señora chismosa que estuvo en medio de la conversación todo el tiempo.
Ya sé, demasiada información.
Pero bueno, mira, vámonos.
A veces
Ujú.
siento que no tengo tanta retención de información en inglés. O sea, me
Es,
pasa también en mi trabajo.
ajá, es totalmente normal. Mira,
Ah, muy bien.
a mí me pasó, digo, yo tenía ya dando clases y lo que tú quieras, y pues, gracias a Dios tengo mucho tiempo sabiendo inglés, pero me tocó ponerme a prueba, verdaderamente a prueba en mi trabajo, en un proyecto donde me dijeron, oye, le vas a dar soporte a unas personas de UK y
Ok.
pues ahora sí, o sea, es hablar con ellos directo, no van a hablar con nadie más que contigo, aparte que en mi equipo nadie habla inglés, entonces,
Ah,
pues, ni modo. Entonces, de cuenta yo, bien confiado, ¿no? Of course, my horse, I'm the English teacher. For here, o sea, para acá. Qué bueno. Oye, que me voy conectando. Y entonces empiezo a escuchar este otro universo y, Dios mío, o sea, a veces pasa que digo, o en otras reuniones a mí me pasaba que decía, bueno, al cabo está fulanito y sotanito escuchando también, ¿no? Si me pierdo en algo al rato
ah,
les pregunto.
ándale,
O,
sí.
pero acá era yo. Y ahora sí que si yo no lo entendía, valía queso. Entonces,
¿Y
al
qué
final,
dijeron? ¿Quién sabe?
ajá, y si quieres ahorita al final de la clase te muestro, digo, si nos queda tiempo, si no después, un cachito para que veas cómo hablan, porque los grabé en una sesión, abren su cámara y todo, de buenas que abren la cámara y les puedo entender los labios, pero es es un tema de, primero, o sea, sí, es impactante al principio, ¿no? Porque si dices de que, ala, no, te pierdes y luego te regresas y luego te vuelves a perder y luego te vuelves a regresar, pero despuésito de un rato, pues ya como que dices, ah, ok, bueno, sí, ya, te caché pedacitos de la idea. Hoy por hoy ya tengo un año hablando con ellos. En las llamadas, te puedo decir que el 90% del tiempo estoy entendiendo bien.
Ok.
Ya me acostumbré, ya está padre. El otro 10% sí me pierdo y sí les digo, puedes repetírmelo. Obviamente, como les estamos ayudando y son bien amables, pues me lo repiten bien, bien bonito, bien despacito y me lo refrasean y hasta como hablan más lento para que les entienda. Entonces, bueno,
Qué
lo
padre.
mismo te va a pasar a ti, o sea, a ti y a todos los que se expongan de esa manera al inglés, ¿no? Cuando te toca ya estar ahí en vivo, haz de cuenta, te puede pasar eso de que al principio te quedes en blanco o te nortees, pero pues es cuestión de práctica, 100% cuestión.
Sí, porque sí, haz de cuenta que sí entiendo, pero se me va bien rápido la información. Yo de que,
Ah,
ay, pero lo bueno que mi jefe, pues él sí habla bien fluido.
ajá.
Entonces ya después le pregunto, oye, esto, del otro.
Ujú.
Pero sí, de que no manches, se me va bien rápido la información, pero qué bueno que es
Pero,
normal.
no, hombre, y tú tienes una ventaja totota que a lo mejor otros alumnos que yo tengo no, que es que tú tienes contacto directo en inglés con gente. Yo sé que, por ejemplo, Fito también, Jesse creo que tiene algunos amigos también. O sea, este grupo particularmente tiene manera de acceder a eso. Hay otros que no.
Ujú.
Entonces, hay que aprovechar muchísimo eso porque el día de mañana, Diana, no falta mucho para que te digan, oye, ¿puedes tomar la llamada, por favor? Y,
Ay, ya sé,
pues,
ay, ya sé.
ajá, o sea, no, y X, o sea, y la vas a tomar y al principio estás todo nervioso, todo nerviosa, y luego ya la tomas y es de que, no, y me fue bien, ya andas bien contento, pero fue un proceso, ¿verdad? Yo creo que le da mucho valor que estés ahorita conectada a las casi 8 de la noche, ya deberías de estar de que relaxed, pero pues aquí estamos haciendo un esfuerzo extra Y eso es lo que te va a abrir la puerta a esos escenarios y a poderlo sobrellevar bien. O sea, 100%, te lo aseguro porque hablo desde la experiencia.
Ay,
Pues,
sí.
bueno, después de esta charla motivacional, le voy a poner lo voy a dejar correr un poquito y vamos a ir cachando ideas de cada uno, ¿sí?
Ok,
No voy a ir pausa y pausa como otras veces, porque igual y ya lo escuchamos y aparte, más bien voy a repetir o donde digan frases así como medio raras o algo así.
ok.
Separately. Complete the exercise as you listen. Part 1.
Would you like some more dessert?
No thanks, Linda. Everything was delicious, but I couldn't eat another bite. Thank
This is an expression, I couldn't eat another bite. I am so full. Okay? I cannot eat another bite. Otra mordidita. Ya
Okay,
no puedo ni con otra mordidita.
you so much.
okay.
So, Jean, how are your kids doing?
This is the first question. How are your kids doing? And this is where everything starts.
Well, that depends which one.
Well, how about the oldest? That's Brian, right? How old is he now?
He's 15.
He's 15. I am the oldest.
Brian's fine. Brian's always fine.
She says 2 times, Brian is fine. Brian is always fine.
He's doing great at school. I'm sure he'll get into a great university in a couple of years.
Okay, he's doing great at school. I'm sure he will get into a great university in a couple of years.
He's a great kid, works hard, he plays by the rules, and he's successful at almost everything he does.
He works hard. He plays by the rules. This means he likes to do the things correctly. Okay?
Okay.
And he always works very hard.
The only thing that sometimes worries me about Brian is that he can be a little too self-critical.
The only thing that worries me about Brian is that he can be a little bit too self-critical. Okay? He
Okay.
criticizes himself.
Self-critical. How so?
Well, Brian can be pretty hard on himself.
Brian can be pretty hard or very hard on himself.
No matter
Okay.
how well he does at something, he's not satisfied.
No matter how well he does at something, he's not
He
satisfied.
always feels he could do better.
That's so interesting.
He always feels he can do better.
Our first, Eric, is like that too.
Our first Eric, our first Eric is like that too. That's why she says this is very interesting. My oldest son, Eric, is like that too.
Really?
You know, I once read this article in one of those popular psychology magazines.
You know, I once read this article. What article? She doesn't say the name, but she's going to talk about an article. Okay.
Okay.
It said that first children are often self-critical because parents push them to succeed more than they do with their other children.
The article said that first kids are more self-critical because parents push them to succeed more than they did with the other children.
I don't mean to suggest you did that. And I don't think we did that with Eric.
She says, I don't mean to suggest you did that. Es como un disclaimer, como diciendo, no es que esté sugiriendo que tú empujaste a tu hijo a ser así, pero y tampoco es algo que nosotros hayamos hecho con Eric.
But it's interesting because it's so common. I just wonder why.
Well, I do think there's some truth to that in our case.
She says, well, I think there is some truth in that to our case, okay?
Harvey and I were involved in everything Brian did. Music lessons, karate lessons, Chinese class on Saturday. We drove him to all his classes.
Her husband and her were very involved in all the classes and activities of Brian, of the kid. They drove him, that means they took him on the car.
We picked him up after they were over.
They took him to the classes and then they picked him up when they were over.
We always asked him a lot of questions about how he was doing. He probably thought our message to him was that he had to be good at everything.
So they were very interested in Brian's activities, asking a lot of questions, checking how he's doing. And he probably thought that the message they were sending was that he had to be good in everything.
But we were just interested. We didn't actually push him to be good at everything, but he may have thought we expected a lot of him.
So what she's saying is it wasn't our intention to push him a lot. We just wanted to know how he was doing, and maybe he thought that they were pushing him.
Kids internalize those messages.
I imagine that's pretty typical.
Kids internalize those messages, the message that they feel that they are being pushed.
It's no one's fault.
And one more thing, if you buy into that, nurture theory.
Yeah?
She says, oh, and one more thing, if you buy into that, si tú te compras esa nurture theory, not nature, nurture, okay? If you buy into that nurture theory.
Brian's sister Annie wasn't born till Brian was 8.
Okay? Brian's sister was not born until Brian was 8.
He really had more contact with us and other adults than he did with someone closer to his age.
He had a lot of contact with adults.
I'm sure all that contact with us probably had a huge impact. And, interestingly, Brian has always been comfortable with adults.
Brian has always been comfortable with adults.
From what you're saying, it sounds like Brian is the classic first child. They say that first children often feel more comfortable with people older than themselves. They seem to have a short childhood and grow up fast.
They seem to have a short childhood and grow up fast. Do you have any questions so far?
No.
Okay, perfect. Let's go. Check true or false. Brian is usually dissatisfied with himself.
True.
True. Brian obeys rules.
What is obeys?
Obey. You have to obey your mother. Okay? You have to do what your mother tells you to do because you have to obey your mother.
Okay.
Obedecer. Mhm.
True.
True. He plays by the rules. Brian does most things well.
True.
True. Brian's mother thinks her husband pushed Brian to be successful.
False.
False. They were just trying to be involved. Okay, that's
Yes.
all. They were not trying to push him. Maybe he understood that it wasn't the message. And Brian never liked being with adults when he was growing up.
False.
False. He gets very comfortable with adults.
Yes.
Very good, Diana. Perfect. Did you understand better this time?
Yes.
It was only a matter of practice. Let's go with number 2 or the second children. I think it's 7:54. I'm not sure if we're gonna finish. If not,
Creo que sí me acuerdo las respuestas.
vamos a ver. Yo todavía me la sé. Creo. Annie is the middle child or the baby?
The middle child.
The middle child. Number 2, Annie had a lot of time with her parents before Annie had a lot of time with her parents before her younger sister was born, or only a little time with her parents before her younger sister was born?
Only a little time.
Yes. Annie is jealous of Brian or Brian and Lucy?
Eso sí no me acuerdo.
Brian and Lucy. She says that she was jealous of both of her brothers. Brian,
Okay.
because he was very independent, and Lucy because Lucy got all the attention.
Okay.
Annie
Sí, ya me
breaks,
acordé.
Annie breaks or Annie obeys the rules?
Breaks.
Yeah, she's very rebel. Remember, she doesn't like to wear the clothes her mother tells her to wear. She likes to be crazy and etc. And Annie is rebellious and popular, or rebellious but not popular?
Rebellious and popular.
Yeah, she was the most popular of her children, okay?
Yes.
Let's see if you can remember the answers for the last one, part number 3.
Okay.
How old was Annie when Lucy was born?
13 months.
Months, yes, because when Lucy was born, Annie was also a baby. That's why she
Yes.
said that Annie had only a little time with her parents before her younger sister was born.
Yes.
Okay. Number 2, what does Lucy like most?
Making other people
Yeah, laugh.
laugh.
Yes, I don't know why I draw it like this. Yes, she likes to make other people laugh. Oh my God, what is happening with this? I'm sorry. Let me, okay. Number 3, what did Lucy do to the dining room wall?
She painted it.
She painted it. Luckily, it was washable paint. And the last
Yes.
one, in number 4, why does Lucy drive her older siblings crazy?
Why does Lucy drive her things crazy? Sh uh, Others pay too much attention to her.
Yes, people pay a lot of attention to her because she's very she's very funny. She's always making people laugh, and her siblings, her brother and her sister get a little bit jealous or uncomfortable about that. But
Okay.
good job, very good job. I liked it. Now, si quieres como tarea, no tarea, pero ahí como ejercicio personal, mañana que les comparta la clase, le das un vistazo para que cerciores tus respuestas y digas, por eso dije esto, ¿no?
Okay.
Y pues bueno, para que ya quede bien afianzada esa parte, ¿ok?
Okay, sí.
¿Tienes alguna duda, Diana? ¿Alguna pregunta de la clase de hoy?
No, todo bien.
Súper, pues hoy terminamos ya la unidad número 7, empezamos con unidad 8, si Dios quiere, mañana. Pues vamos a echarle ganas para acabar ya pronto. Y pues bueno, muy buen trabajo hoy. ¿Ok?
Okay,
Mañana
muchas
platicamos.
gracias.
Descansa.
Sí,
Bye.
igual, bye.